Hi, it's Sandy here. On my Facebook page, I have had pinned to the top of the page the post with my platform for my candidacy for mayor of New Martinsville. In this day and age where people prefer videos, they don't read as much. I thought maybe I would do this live video. Um, Actually, it's delayed like 15 minutes, but do this video to tell you why I'm running for mayor, what I believe in, uh, some of the things I think that we can do better. Um, and one of those actually is an impact that's happening right now with this coronavirus pandemic. One of the things I've talked about for a while is um, more um, information on social media, a more open form of government. I don't know that our city tries to hide anything from us. But they follow the letter of the law. You have to post it on the city hall door 3 days in advance for any meetings, yada yada yada. That was fine back in 1900, 1920 when everybody was downtown all the time. But it's now 2020, and not everyone is downtown. Not everybody can be there from 9 to 4. So that means you would be making a trip to check the courthouse door several times a week. So I have been an advocate for putting the information out on social media platforms, putting it on the local TV channel that we have. I know that's a little bit more work for someone or a group of people, but it's very doable. I know that because I do quite a bit of it or have in the past. So I think we need a much more open form of government with these modern methods of communication. The West Virginia Ethics Commission just came down with a ruling just a few days ago. Terry Tyler shared this with me that for public meetings right now, with the city buildings being closed and that sort of thing, that those same meetings that they've had now have to be made available to the public via either teleconferencing or through a webinar based platform. The one you've probably heard the most about is something called Zoom. So that in order to be in compliance with the open meetings edict, that is how they are going to have to handle things going forward. I haven't seen anything yet on the city's page. They did start a new Martinsville City Hall page recently. I know the couple meetings have been posted there. It's been more information on responses to this, and I think there's a couple of job postings, but uh, I'm sure they're working on figuring that out now that that is going to become a reality. And there's really no reason that that cannot continue going forward. I think we need to do that to gain our citizens' input on what direction they want to see the city go, what priorities they want to see the city focus upon. I will maintain the current open door policy. Uh, I think that's essential in government. Um, People have questions and concerns all the time, so we need to be available to answer your questions. Another thing that I am very much in favor of is strategic planning. That's kind of a 10-year plan that you put together and then you revisit it once a year, see if you're still meeting your goals, seeing what needs tweaked, what needs changed, what do we need to add to it to keep it as a 10-year plan. It's a shared vision. Strategic planning is a shared vision for New Martinsville. Um, and coming up with a workable plan to attain those goals once you know what those goals are. And so along those veins, you would need to do town hall type meetings several times a year. If we're still at stay-at-home policies, it would be through webinar type meetings. to get citizens' inputs, along with the things that the city council may think or decide that we need to be working on, and then the citizens can also have their input and kind of drive the direction that we go. Um, I've used it at the Wetzel County CVB. Uh, the last couple of years, I've hosted the strategic planning sessions or facilitated them myself, and it really is an all hands on deck and everybody's opinion as to what we need to focus on, and making sure that we're still that our mission statement is still valid for the day. Along with strategic planning, there needs to be strategic for the city as a whole that would include your individual departments, a plan for our infrastructure, for upgrading and updating and replacements and renovations. I've noticed when I was out walking around, we have lots of areas where our catch basins are sinking. We know from some flooding issues that have been happening in different areas of the city that a lot of attention needs paid to our storm drainage system right now. Um, I spoke with Dan Mahurin, and he said we should probably, one of his suggestions was have a moratorium on no huge developments until we have mapped out our infrastructure and make sure that we have the capacity to handle what we are adding to the system. Um, I've looked at some of the city ordinances. I've not looked at all of them. I've just read a few of them, things that people have brought up to me. We have there are some new ones already being planned due to the home rule application, things that the city will now be able to handle in a much more expeditious manner. But we also have outdated ordinances. We have ordinances that have no teeth in them. Um, I go back to the discussion on cats. For a while, that was just about every council meeting, someone was talking about cats. And is it the city's responsibility to have an officer? Or is it the county's responsibility? Um, the county says it's the city's, and the city said they turned it over to the county. Well, if they did turn it over to the county, then we need to revise our ordinances because right now, unless it's been already changed and has not yet been updated online, our ordinance states that the council is empowered to hire an animal control officer to enforce ordinances pertaining to the keeping of animals within city limits, Section 505.03. We also need to look how the state code has changed over the years. I know there have been a lot of changes that I've been made aware of because of my involvement in the tourism industry. And we may need to look at our city ordinances and bring them back in line with what the state says. Um, we need to identify gaps in goods and services that are available to our citizens, whether they be services for our senior citizens or services for our youth or for our young adults or all of those in between. I would like to see us create a prospectus for New Martinsville. And in fact, the blueprint communities that I am involved with, we are already looking at a pamphlet to put together uh, that will highlight some of the things that New Martinsville has available. We can use these to attract businesses and residences to New Martinsville, we can show the gap in the services. And that information is available. I've already seen some of it from Daniel Eads, WVU, again, through the report he did for the blueprint communities, and he pulled data from other sources to put this together for specifically New Martinsville. Um, and what we don't think about is that if you live in a large metropolitan area, a lot of those people are driving an hour to work anyway. So we have within an hour of us uh, Parkersburg and Wheeling, and within an hour and a half, Morgantown. So it's not like we cannot attract residences to us. My sister-in-law Christy used to drive to Clarksburg. She did that for a dozen years, every day, back and forth for her job. Maybe longer than that, but uh, even though we may not be able to attract a large industry right here, we may certainly be able to attract residences, which helps our tax base. Uh, we are still a service center for a very large area. And so that brings into play our fiscal responsibility also, filling in the gaps in personnel and wage disparity that the city has, um, making sure that we have money allocated for the strategic plan before we put it elsewhere. Um, I have noticed by attending the council meeting, some departments are understaffed. I would have to take a deeper dive to know why that exists and why some are paid better than others. Um, so we need to look at how those wage adjustments are being made. Um, Cost of living adjustments, I think, should be a given. That has been done in industry for a long time. We also need to reserve funds for future uses, planning, projects, emergencies. We're living in a giant one right now. Um, the other thing that we need is disaster planning. Another huge eye opener is this coronavirus pandemic. Um, Everything is like our lives changed overnight uh, from what we knew to what the new is going to be. And I honestly will get through it. The government finally, the House today passed the CARES Act, and there will be more legislation coming down. Don't think this is the end of it. Um, but right now, this package is support for 4 months, I believe, is the figure I've been told as far as the support for individuals. So that's probably what they are anticipating an end date. Um, when I did inquire about disaster planning, I was told that we would depend upon our Office of Emergency Management Services for direction. And when I spoke to the OEMS, I discovered that cities around here really do not have any of their own disaster plans. Um, we have one for the museum. What do you do in case of a flood? What is the process? We had a derecho go through several years ago. Flooding is quite frequent. And if there is that plan out there, no one was able to put their fingers on it when it was asked for. We live in an industrial area. We got a railroad running right through the middle of town, runs through our entire town. What if there is a major uh, railroad accident? Uh, Heaven forbid, I don't want to see that happen, but we need to have a plan in place in case it does. Instead of waiting on someone else to give us direction, let's have our direction in place a little bit. Uh, the other thing is standard operating procedures. I know that the police department is reviewing theirs at this present time. Some departments do not have them. Um, those are just real not simple to do because you're basically putting down in some format, whether it's on paper or electronic, the steps that every job has, the responsibilities for every job, and the steps to take for everything you do on that job. So they are very time consuming to produce, but they are very, very helpful for training and for if you would have a rapid employee turnover, like what we're going to experience in the police department this fall. The current city council is more active than I've seen for a while from council. Um, so I will be more than happy to work with them to continue and expand upon the good work that they are already doing. So if you are so inclined, vote for Sandy Hunt for mayor of New Martinsville. I feel like I have a lot to offer this community, and I will work for each and every citizen here in New Martinsville. Thank you for your time, and I will appreciate your vote.